Hey guys, welcome to the channel, and what we are going to talk about today are the best soundbars that you can buy under 50,000 rupees. Now we already have a video talking about soundbars under 30,000 rupees on this channel, and between the 30 to 50,000 rupee price point, there are many options to choose from. And if you're someone on the higher end of that spectrum, between 50 and 55,000 rupees also, there are plenty of options to choose from. And a lot of these soundbars come with an immense number of features, be it HDMI pass-through, support for Dolby Atmos, and one very important thing at the higher end of the spectrum is that we now have a lot of modular soundbars to choose from. So before we dive deep in, I want to talk about two things. One is I'll be explaining about what modular soundbars are and why you should care. And two, because a lot of these modular soundbars are upwards of 50,000 rupees, between 50 and 55,000 rupees. What I am going to do is give you an option of one modular soundbar or one slightly higher end soundbar and another soundbar that comes closer to the 30 to 50,000 rupee price point. So if you're someone at the higher end of that spectrum, you have one option for you, which is most probably going to be a modular soundbar, and on the lower or mid end of this spectrum, you get an all-in-one package, something where you get everything out of the box. So before we get started with the first option, let's first look at what is a modular soundbar. Now, a modular soundbar is basically a soundbar where you can add other components to it as you go along. So let's say, for example, we have recently, a couple of months ago, Sony launched the HT-S2000, and this is one of their entry-level modular soundbars. It's priced at about 55,000 rupees. This is our first soundbar that we're going to talk about, but we'll come to it specifically later. Now, in a modular soundbar like the Bose Soundbar 600 or the Sonos Arc 2, or some of the other soundbars we're going to talk about out here, the fact that you can attach a wireless subwoofer later and wireless surround speakers later give you the flexibility of spending more on a soundbar today, a subwoofer tomorrow, and maybe a couple of months down the line, if you feel the surround experience is slightly lacking, you can invest in the surround speakers as well. Now, there are a few advantages that I see to a modular soundbar. One is you are getting a very premium product, and as you know, if you want to invest, let's say, a lakh of rupees over a period of 2 or 3 years in a nice audio setup for your home theater, you can always invest in the nice soundbar first, check your room's acoustics, and then, for example, in Sony's case, you have the option of 2 separate subwoofers that you can choose from. Depending on the size of your room, you can go in for the 200 watt or the 300 watt sound, the subwoofer based your requirements. And of course, there are options for surround speakers as well, depends on which brand you're going for. From Sony to Samsung to Sonos and Bose, there are many brands that are offering you modular soundbars today, which means that you can upgrade it in the future. Now, what's the con of going in for a modular soundbar? Well, for starters, they are slightly on the more expensive side of the spectrum, especially if you are on the budget of about 50,000 rupees, where in the sub 50k you can get a fantastic soundbar where you get the soundbar and the subwoofer, and in some cases surround speakers as well as a part of the package. A second concern of mine, which I actually haven't had the ability to find right now, is upgradability. So if you buy a soundbar today and let's say 2 or 3 years later you want to upgrade the subwoofer or the rear speakers, there is no guarantee per se that they'll be available. But this category is such, it's not like smartphones, right, where every year there's a new phone and you are going to have something that's outdated in a matter of 2-3 years. Soundbars have a longer shelf life. So yes, it is possible that we will see these accessories available for a longer period of time, but that's something that we'll have to wait and watch, because these modular soundbars have just started hitting the market about a year or 2 ago. So with that explanation of what is a modular soundbar out of the way, let's quickly get started with the first option. And like I said, I'm going to give you 2 options in each. So instead of 5, this is actually 10 soundbars, one kind of modular, and if it's not modular, it's a 5.1 kind of a setup. But yeah, the other one is going to be a straight up out of the box recommendation. So the first one that we have is the Sony HT-S2000 that I was talking about earlier. This is available at about 43,000 rupees as of making this video, and it is a simple 3.1 soundbar. So it basically has only front firing drivers, 3 drivers in the front and 2 subwoofer ducts on the side, which of course, if you want more bass, you can add the subwoofer later on and surround speakers later. So what's great about the soundbar is that Sony really knows how to do home audio very well. You get very good channel separation. It is only a 3.1, so even though it supports Dolby Atmos, you aren't getting up firing speakers, so don't expect the sound to come from above you like some other recommendations we have. But yes, if you want to climb the price ladder, and if you want to still be in the Sony ecosystem, you have the A3000, the A5000 and the A7000. All of these are upgraded over the S2000 and of course offer better features, including up-firing drivers, premium build, better sound output, etc, etc. But the S2000 is a great starting point if you are just dipping your toes in the modular soundbar space, want a great home theater experience for the next 5 to 7 years, and then maybe want to upgrade post that to something more expensive. So you can consider the S2000 as a good entry point. You can pair it with two subwoofer options. You have the SASW5, which is a 300 watt subwoofer, which is absolutely fantastic. I've actually reviewed this subwoofer in the past and it really holds a punch. I mean, if you have a 10 feet by 12 feet room, it's going to be an overkill for that small of a room. So in that case, you can consider the SASW3, which is a 200 watt subwoofer, and that also packs in quite the punch. Now, the only downside to this soundbar, the way I see it, is you can only pair it with the SARS3S surround speakers, which are just, you know, single driver firing surround speakers. The higher end of Sony's soundbars, which is the A3000, 5000 and 7000 onwards, support the SARS5 surround speakers, which of course have slightly better sound output and slightly better surround features. Now, remember, one thing is, when you're considering a soundbar is, especially with rare surround speakers, is that the speakers should face you, the driver of the speakers should face you and be at ear level and no more than about 5-6 feet away to give you the best surround experience. Because if you place them facing front or up or facing any other direction, you really aren't going to get that great surround experience when, you know, a plane is swishing on the screen or, you know, something like that. But what if you want something that's completely out of the box? Because remember, the subwoofers are expensive, the surround speakers are also going to cost you much, and if you really want a bang for your buck straight out of the box under 50,000 rupees, then I would recommend the Sony HT-G700. You get a 3.1 soundbar and of course the subwoofer in the box itself. As of recording this video, it sells for about 38,000 rupees or 39,000 rupees, and it really packs a punch. The subwoofer is really powerful. The audio is very loud, very clear, very clean. You get great thumps, especially if you're going to be gaming on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X on your TV, and even when you're watching movies. Now, this is a 3.1 soundbar with Sony's vertical surround sound, so you do get a slightly expanded experience when consuming Dolby Atmos content, but don't expect the sound to be coming from above you. And of course, there's no support for surround speakers, so this is basically for your 8 by 10 or 10 by 12 feet room, where you want to place a soundbar and have great audio filling the room, but don't necessarily have the space or the requirement for surround speakers. So that was option number one. Let's move over to option number two. Now, option number two is not exactly a modular soundbar, but it is a full, 5.1.2 setup where you actually get the soundbar, the surround speakers, and upward firing speakers on the soundbar itself. And this is the Philips soundbar TAB8967. And for now, we're just going to call it the Philips 5.1.2 soundbar because I'm not going to remember that model number. The great thing about Philips is that it makes fairly neutral sounding soundbars where the bass is good, the vocals are good, the channel separation is good, and the overall sound output is really, really good. I think Philips is kind of underrated today in India's market when it comes to the soundbars, especially when you're competing with the likes of Sony, Samsung and LG, which are really heavily promoting premium sound from their soundbars. But this Philips soundbar has a very cool angular design, and it does have up firing drivers on the bar, not the surround speakers, so you do get a fairly encompassing experience. And if you have like a 12 by 14 feet kind of a room, and you do have the space for the surround speakers to kind of face you and be at ear height at about 5-6 feet away, then you are going to get a fairly good surround sound experience. I wish that the surround speakers had upward firing drivers to give you a more immersive experience, but yeah, the fact that the soundbar itself has upward firing drivers is a great option for you to consider. Alternatively, if you don't have space for the surround speakers, at the price point of about 35,000 rupees, you have another soundbar from Philips, which is essentially the one we just spoke about, but minus the surround speakers. So you have the Philips soundbar TAB8947, which is a simple 3.1 soundbar 0.2, which is the upward firing drivers on the soundbar itself. Again, the same angular design. You can look up these two on an e-commerce website, and apart from the surround speakers, you wouldn't see any difference in the two from a visual and aesthetic perspective. And of course, like I said, if you have a slightly smaller room or just want to enhance the audio from your TV, the soundbar is fairly good with great channel separation, and the height gives you a slightly better experience when you are consuming Dolby Atmos content. Now, Upward firing drivers have way too many complications when it comes to the positioning of the soundbar. You cannot place it, under something where the top speaker gets covered like a shelf. It has to be as open as possible, and the driver needs to be able to hit a ceiling to come down. So if you have some work on the ceiling, or if you have a really high ceiling, then your Dolby Atmos experience will always be affected, especially with upward firing drivers. Moving over to the next option, and this is one that I have heard and absolutely love. If you're someone that's going into a modular soundbar and you are worried that you are going to miss out on bass without a subwoofer, you should check out the Bose Soundbar 600. I highly recommend going to an offline store and listening to the soundbar. It looks absolutely premium. It feels very premium with the way it's built. It sounds absolutely fantastic. For some reason, the community lately has been Bose haters, from the way I have been speaking to a couple of people, and they don't prefer Bose anymore. I don't know why. Probably because they are expensive, because this soundbar goes for about 50 to 55,000 rupees. If you look at the price online, always I say go offline and check it out. It is possible you'd get a better deal. The subwoofer is about 35 to 40,000 rupees, and the surround speakers as well are also a little expensive. So you will touch the 1 lakh mark if you are, cross the 1 lakh mark if you are going with the Bose 600. Bose has a higher end soundbar as well, which of course sounds a lot better, has better channel separation, but this one is no slouch. Trust me, if you enjoy the sound that Bose gives you, you should definitely go and listen to this one. It definitely trumps the Sony HT-S2000. Of course, it competes with Sony's higher end soundbars. That's why I didn't use those in this list, and kind of kept it to the ones that I would prefer. The Bose 600 has fantastic channel separation, very good sound, very good room acoustic planning. So with the app, you can actually get the soundbar to tune itself so that the sound is best as per the way the furniture is placed in your room. And syncing everything with the Bose app is really, really easy as well. So you do get a great sounding experience from this Bose Soundbar 600. But alternatively, if you want something that's an all-in-one box, then I would suggest you check out the JBL Bar 500. This is also priced at about 50,000 rupees. So if you want a really, really loud soundbar for a big room with good bass, then you should definitely check it out. Now, I'm not sure if this is a unit issue, but I have a neighbor who has the JBL Bar 500, and on his bar, sometimes the vocals from movies doesn't seem to be that great, but I've heard this bar elsewhere as well. And over there, I found that the vocals for the dialogues were really, really good. So this is a very traditional 5.1 setup where you just get the bar and the subwoofer. No surround speakers, but it is JBL in its truest tradition of soundbar. So if you've used a JBL Bar 2.1 in the past, which is JBL's entry-level 20,000 rupee soundbar, and you are upgrading from that to this, you will definitely not be disappointed, because JBL's sound signature, the bass packs a thump with that 10-inch subwoofer, and it's an overall fantastic experience, especially if you want a no-nonsense soundbar to sit under your television. Moving into Samsung territory now. Okay, now Samsung has a crazy number of soundbars available, and if you go on their online store, you go to an e-com store, you go offline, you are going to have way too many options to choose from. In fact, I also got a little confused as to which ones to recommend in this video, but I narrowed it down to the Q800C. So this one is priced at about 50,000 rupees. It is a 5.1.2 soundbar because it has side firing drivers as well. So you have 3 drivers up front, 2 side firing drivers and upward firing drivers as well. So you do get a better surround experience from the bar itself. And of course you can buy Samsung's own SWA9500S surround speakers with this one if you want to add the surround speakers as well, which really do enhance the viewing experience. And Samsung has implemented some great technologies. I mean, Sony has the ability to sync its soundbars to their Bravia TVs for a more immersive experience. The same thing is with Samsung and their Q Symphony technology, where if you have a Samsung TV, certain Samsung TV models, and a Samsung soundbar, they can sync the audio between the two. And in some Samsung soundbar cases, that sync can be wireless for Dolby Atmos audio, so you really don't have to have an HDMI cable running in for ARC or eARC, which is great, but that doesn't work with all, so you may want to check if it works with your soundbar and TV or not. So with the Q800C, you get a complete package because you have side firing drivers, front firing drivers, upward firing drivers, a subwoofer in the box, and if you have the space or if you want, you also get surround speakers as well, which just makes this a fantastic package deal. At about 50,000 rupees is where you get the soundbar and the subwoofer, making it a great option to kick it off, and then you can always invest in the surround speakers later. Now, Alternatively, you also have the Samsung S800B. This is a 3.1.2, which is, it has the 3 front firing drivers, the 2 upward firing drivers, and the subwoofer. It does not have side firing drivers, but the performance is almost the same. Now, if you have a narrower room or you have a glass window on one side, then the side firing driver is going to be a waste, because, you know, if the side firing driver hits glass, it's not going to bounce back to you and give you that great surround experience. So maybe this one at about 10,000 rupees cheaper may be a better option for you. And this soundbar, which is the S800B, is a super slim soundbar. So if space is a constraint for you in terms of height, like let's say your TV is on a tabletop stand and you have very little space, then the S800B is a great option, because it's a really slim soundbar, but it is really long as well. So that's something to keep in mind, that it's a really long soundbar. So space in terms of height is where it's compromising to ensure that it has a slim profile, but that makes it really, really long as well. And of course, if you want something that's more traditional in the Samsung space, you can check out the Q700B, which is priced at about 35,000 rupees. It's a great option as a straight up 3.1 soundbar. So that was the Q700B. So those were the Samsung options. And before we go into the last option, I just want to talk about one brand, which is Nakamichi. Now, if you guys are into soundbars, then you definitely know that Nakamichi does some fantastic work. In January 2023 at CES, they announced the Nakamichi DRAGON. There are a lot of videos out there for you guys to check out from CES, and I believe some soundbar reviewers in the US have access to the soundbar now for their reviews. But get this, it is a 11.4.6 soundbar. It has 4 drivers in 2 subwoofers, and it has an overall 31 drivers. Now, you will have heard of soundbars like the Sennheiser Ambio, which are great because there's just one bar without a subwoofer, lots of drivers firing in all directions to give you fantastic immersive experience, and it works really well. And the Nakamichi DRAGON is the best example of the fact that you can get a soundbar with, you know, various speakers in the box itself that can give a dedicated Dolby Atmos home theater a run for its money. I highly urge you guys to go and check it out, and if by some magical means you can get it in India, nothing like it. Moving over to our last option, and of course this is one I haven't really seen tested or reviewed, but it is based on people I know that have heard it, is the Sonos Beam 2. Now this is slightly expensive, coming in at about 50 to 55,000 rupees. On sale it goes down to about 45,000 rupees, but if you get it with the Sonos subwoofer and the surround speakers, it goes way above 1,20,000 rupees. So it's on the much higher end of the spectrum as a package deal compared to the others that we've spoken about. But the Sonos Beam 2 does sound very, very great, and if you are in the Sonos ecosystem, it's very easy to control it with your app. If you have other speakers in other rooms, you can synchronize them. There's a lot that you can do once you get into the Sonos ecosystem. It's kind of like the Apple of soundbars in a matter of speaking as far as ecosystem is concerned, and they sound really, really great as well. I believe Chroma has a couple of Sonos soundbars. I'm not sure if they have the 2nd generation Beam, but if they do, you guys can go and definitely check it out. And like I said, you can always upgrade the surround and rear speakers. The one reason for recommending Sonos is, of course, the size. It's a fairly compact soundbar, so if space is a constraint for you and you want a soundbar that's not going to occupy too much space, then yes, the modular nature of the Sonos Beam 2 is definitely something to check out. Speaking of space, now if you guys are on the lower end of the budget, and of course this is a soundbar that just comes in at about 30,000 rupees, sometimes it's a little more than 30, sometimes it's a little less, is the Polk Audio Magnify Mini. The soundbar is really this small, but it has drivers that are firing in front and at the side in addition to the subwoofer, and its compact form factor will deceive you into how good the channel separation is. If you have a motorcycle switching from left to right on this soundbar, you will notice that channel separation. It's way better than, let's say, the Sony HT-S2000 or the S40R, for example, which also has a very compact soundbar. The Polk is smaller, but because of the side firing nature of its front drivers, just gives you a fantastically immersive experience, especially when you are watching movies or even playing games. And the subwoofer also packs in quite the punch. So if you have a small room, or if you have a monitor whose sound system you really want to upgrade for your PC gaming experience or PC movie watching experience, or you simply just don't have a lot of space in your house, then you can definitely check out the Polk Magnify Mini. It really packs in a punch for its size. As always, I've left links to all these soundbars in the description below, and you know, for more from the world of soundbars and technology, you can definitely leave me a comment. I will do my best to answer you. Until then, thank you so much for watching, and subscribe to the channel. We will catch you in another video. It's goodbye for now.